Okay.
Yes. So we're talking about how young people are distracted. I think that's what you're talking about. How the young people are distracted by so many things around them that actually influences their ability to stay motivated and stay focused on achieving their desired goal.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I did mention that I talked about the issue of environment
Yeah.
being a critical factor. What they see around them, to a large extent, influence their approach to the issue of success. And I also mentioned that achieving success is one thing and maintaining success is another.
Yeah.
Some persons can achieve success, but they don't have the resilience and all it takes to be able to maintain the success. That is why avoiding the basic rudiments, following it logically to be able to attain success on the long run might not be very helpful.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
it is important that one gives all that it takes to be successful.
Yeah.
I I don't know how much time we have.
We have all
I
the
would have
time.
given an instance of a very young man, a very short story. Let me cut it up
No, you have the time to go ahead. No problem.
of a young man whose old father wanted to hand over his inheritance to.
Okay.
But just like we are discussing about young people's approach to success, they wanted the easy way. And this old man knew all he went through to acquire the much fortune that he has. And so he called his son and told the son that if the son can get $10,000, he is going to write his will, and all the properties the father had, he will give it to him. And
Interesting.
while the conversation was going on, the mother was listening to the conversation between the son and the father. And like
Okay.
we're talking about young men who always want the easy way out, and the boy also left again and still discussed with the mother to say, this is what father said. And the mother quickly got $10,000, gave it to the boy, and said, go and give it to your father. And immediately the boy came. He gave the father, said, Father, I have gotten the money. The father took the money from him and threw it inside fire.
Hmm.
And then the boy was wondering what came on dad to do that. And then the father still told him that if you want me to write my will, everything you have to go and work and get $10,000 and bring to me. And then the boy went back again, discussed with the mother, and she gave him another money. He came again and then gave $10,000. Said, Daddy, I have worked, I have gotten the $10,000. The father knew that it was not the labor of this young man. He took the money and threw it into the fire. The boy was worried. He understood his father's message. So he went to go and labor.
Yeah.
After he labored and labored and labored and sweat it out, and then got $10,000 that he worked for. And then he now came back after a long while and said, Daddy, I have gotten the $10,000. He gave it to the father.
Okay.
And in similar pattern, the father took this money and threw it inside the fire. The boy
Wow.
ran to go and collect the money inside the fire.
Okay.
Now, I hope you got the message.
I got a message. This
The
is his
father
hard
now
work.
said,
He's not
yes,
gonna let
now
it.
I
Not
know.
gonna let it get burnt.
Yes, he will not let go what he has sweated and worked out for.
That is
The father
good.
said, now I know you worked for this money. The previous one, I took the money and threw in fire because you didn't labor for it.
Yeah.
You let go. Now that you know what it takes to work hard to get money, I know if I hand over my properties to you, even when I am no more, you will take care of it because you know what it takes. So just try to differentiate between getting it the easy way and also going through the rudiments of achieving success and then maintaining success. So this is the point I am trying to make with this short story and illustration I have given. So one thing is to achieve success, another thing is to maintain it. So if you are able to be disciplined enough and go through the ladder to achieve success, it is easier to maintain success.
Thank you very much. I think that's a perfect analogy. Yeah, I think it reminds me of the story in the Bible also about Solomon when he was trying to make a judgment between the two women that actually were claiming to have a baby. The other one says, okay, yeah, we can cut the baby into half and we'll share it. And the other one says, no, 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 just give it to her. And that shows actually who actually wants the baby. Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to go to the next one again. I think it's also very important. It's we talked about relationship, sorry, happiness and success. So I'm trying to look at the role that relationship plays in happiness, especially for younger people as they grow up and planning to get to have their own family, and also even for those who already have a family, what's the place of happiness? How is happiness related to relationship? Because it's often said that behind every successful man, it's a woman.
Yes. Relationship and happiness, in a way, they are intertwined.
Hmm.
Good relationship often produce happiness. But on the other way around, once the relationship is bad or is faulty, it is often associated with heartaches.
That
Human
is
beings are ultra-social species. And so it is in our nature that we cannot live our lives without interacting, without having relationship. So it's important that the basics is made clear at this point. In as much as we are meant to relate, to have relationship, to be able to build up relationship, we must also understand that the foundation of that relationship to produce a happier home or a long-lasting joy, that relationship must be solid and it must be built on trust.
Thank you. So without a healthy relationship, it's difficult to remain
Happy.
happy. Yeah. Yeah, unlike the comparison, unlike success that we talked about, that it takes more than success to be happy. But this one, that's like an indirectly proportional relationship between success and happiness.
Exactly.
This does look like a direct proportional relationship between relationship and happiness.
Yes. Good relationship, but that relationship must be qualified.
Oh yeah, definitely. It has to be
Yes.
a good relationship. Of course, just like you said, the other way around too is also true. If
Yes.
it's
So
yeah.
yes, is in terms of proportionality, yes, it has a direct proportionality.
Okay. Thank you very much. So now that begs for another important question. For young people aspiring to be in a relationship, how should they approach this? Since the ultimate happiness in life depends on that for the most part.
Yes, human beings, being what they are, it's very important that that level of understanding exists. There is no gainsay about the issue of having good relationship if one must enjoy a happy life.
Sorry to so let
We've
me
already,
interrupt you
we have
a little
already
bit.
established that.
Sorry to
And so the
interrupt.
question is, how do we go into those relationships? How do we start good relationship that
Yeah.
will end up with joy and happiness? It's important. That's why I said understanding of each other is very critical, and understanding goes beyond momentary and once a kind of you just jump at relationship. Sometimes what they call love at first sight,
Yeah.
this has wrecked a lot of relationship. There is no much understanding of the parties involved, and before long they try to build a kind of relationship and then quickly want to consummate such relationship, maybe into marriage or something like that. And before you know it, when the storms of life hit the edifice, that of relationship, it begins to have a lot of cracks because the foundation was faulty. So one, in order to have good relationship,
Yeah.
there is a need for the parties involved to know the creator,
Okay.
because ultimately it is God that we know ourselves, but God knows us more than we know ourselves.
Okay.
And to be able to have a strong relationship, the parties involved must know God, because I always try to relate relationship using a isosceles triangle.
Okay.
If you look at isosceles triangle, it has equal length
Two
and
sides.
in the two sides, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So you look at God at the peak,
Yes.
at the apex,
Yes.
and then you put the two parties in the relationship, one at the other end,
Yeah.
at the base.
Yeah.
Now, as the one, as you keep on moving towards the peak where there is God, the
Yeah.
distance between the two of them, what happens to the distance? It narrows.
Yeah.
But the farther you are from the peak, the distance between the two, what happens?
Widens.
It
Yeah.
widens.
Yeah.
So that is why I said the foundation of a true relationship is God. So as the two of them gets closer to God, they become more connected to each other. That is the fundamental truth. And we must emphasize it at this point, even among young people. It's important you know God. Once you know God, it helps you with the foundation of relationship, and then you build up on that. The others are secondary. Now,
Oh.
of,
Okay.
of course, yes.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm listening.
So the others, of course, the issue of both of you getting to understand yourselves. What are your likes? What are your dislikes? Mutual respect for one another, loyalty, having the back of each other becomes other things that you pick up along. And then once you are able to have that as part of your guiding principle, it strengthens the relationship, because I know what you want and you know what I don't want, and you try to avoid that. And with the grace of God supporting you all together, you discover that you tend to overlook. That is
Yeah.
another point. You tend to overlook some of those minor challenges that are bound to rear up its ugly head, because you have already have a solid base. God is there at the beginning of your relationship, and then you will be able to easily overcome those situations, and in fact, those challenges that tends to come up makes you stronger.
Thank you. So can we say without the belief in God, marriage cannot be said to be successful? Because we have quite a number of people around who don't believe there is God. Yeah.
Yes.
So to them, if they ask a question like this, do you mean to say that a couple or a husband and a wife cannot be happy, cannot have a very happy relationship just because they don't believe there is a God?
Not of course. Now, I don't want to conclude that
Yeah, I understand.
all marriages that were not established on the principle of godliness or the principle of God are failures. Not at all. Inasmuch as that is a fact and a point which we will not brush aside, we must also mention at this point that there are marriages that seems to have weathered the storm and they are still standing irrespective of the parties involved having a full knowledge of God. But in such families and such marriages, tolerance is a watchword. The ability to tolerate, the ability to forgive, the ability to relate with the other party as a friend has helped those relationships to stand the test of time. But like I mentioned when the question about relationship was asked, and I quickly tried to bring the issue of an isosceles triangle and talk about the parties involved and then God. That in itself, if is given the right place, even those marriages that, or relationship rather, let me not put it marriage this time around,
Okay.
that existed without God being part of it, will be better than what it is if God was part of it. So that component is important. Let's be honest to ourselves. But beyond that, of course, those marriages even without God, but the point I have talked about, the issue of tolerance, the issue of forgiveness, the issue of looking at your partner as a very close friend of yours, and you wouldn't want to hurt your friend. These are all concepts, these are all things that should characterize such relationship. Once they are there, then it helps that relationship to stand longer. Because forgiveness, for instance, once you offend or your other party steps on your toe or does something that you don't like, and you understand that there is need for forgiveness and then to forge ahead, it is a lot easier to resolve those differences and then get along. So that is why it is important. Then tolerance comes into play when you recognize the weakness of your other party in that relationship, that this is a human and to err is human. And you will be able to understand with the person, and the person in turn is able to also understand with you, and you resolve some of those differences and you be able to each other. It helps the relationship to stay longer. But when these ingredients are missing, that becomes an issue. Then love is also another thing that helps relationship to stand.
Yeah.
When I mean love, I mean true love for each other. Because once there is true love, especially the Bible kind of love, it tends to overlook a lot of things. But if the love is just a superficial one, then if it is faced with a lot of challenge, it tends to give way. Let me use the Bible terms now to describe the love that exists between David and Jonathan. That is the kind of love we're talking about here. That will help you. Because based on the question you have asked me, individuals who don't know God, otherwise, I would have said the love that is between Christ and the church. But if we don't want to stretch that point, the love exhibited by Jonathan and David in the Bible, we can use that one to describe the type of love in relationship that makes that kind of relationship to stand longer, because it is a kind of love that goes with a lot of sacrifice, and one willing to sacrifice his position and his convenience for the other. Let me leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's a great answer, and I hope everybody finds it very very valuable. So just to recap what we've talked about, we talked about mainly two things actually: relationship between the relationship between happiness and success, and also relationship between a relationship and happiness. So we said that achieving success does not necessarily mean that the person will be happy. It takes more than that, but it's
Yes.
also an integral, an important component of that. Then we also talked about the fact that hard work still pays off. It's an old time principle, and it still holds true today. And young people should remember that nothing good comes easy. You gave an analogy, an example of a man who actually wanted to write his will or give everything to his son, but then he would want him to actually go work, do the hard work, and get what he requested from him. So hard work still pays, and we should never forget that. And also, we also talked about the fact that a lot of things actually distract people, especially young people, from actually achieving, even though they actually have the desire to want to achieve, they have their goal set, but they find themselves drifting away from the success they so much desire. So a lot of distractions in the society. They need to be watchful, and not them, even myself, everybody needs to remember that. We also talked about the relationship between relationship itself and happiness. And we talked about the fact that there's a direct relationship between happiness and a healthy relationship, and that God is an integral part of a happy relationship. Even though it's possible to experience some level of happiness without God in it, as some have, but then again, a perfect healthy relationship needs God to be there. Thank you very, very, very much. And one last question, actually, before I let you go, rather, looking at Africa and looking at Europe,
Right.
there are a lot of challenges for younger people back home. You talked about electricity and stuff like that. The hurdles to cross, it's a lot. Whereas in developed country in the West, it's not as hard. What do you think? What do you say to people who say and who try to? I know it's relevant. I know the challenges are there. Who say, were you not for the government? Were you not for this problem? Were you not for this other problem? I would be as successful as this other person. I would achieve this. But then there's nothing I can do. It's not within my power to be able to achieve the desired success. And then somehow they decide to fail, or they decide to engage in some activities that actually are not good. What do you have to tell those people in that part of the world regarding the possibility of them actually achieving their success, their desired goal, regardless of the challenges of the day?
Well, first and foremost, people who succeed, they don't pass blame and excuse themselves. Once you begin to justify the reasons behind your failure or lack of achieving success,
Yeah.
you are taking yourself kilometers away from getting successful. It's not about the location, whether Europe or Africa or Canada. They play their role, but as far as I know, this environment contributes just very minimally in making somebody successful. There are quite a lot of persons who are in Africa who are very successful. If you give them opportunity, come over to Europe, they would not, because of the level of success they have attained, even in
Yeah,
Africa.
that is correct.
So therefore, for young people, there is no easy dollar or pound sterling somewhere. See, if you cross the Niger River, you will come and put your hand in some gold somewhere and then begin to harvest gold. So this idea about leaving our motherland, leaving Africa for no just cause, and in the name of coming to make it easy, a lot of people have crossed and they are now living in regrets. Some have crossed, but what they do to survive is unimaginable. Therefore, my submission and call to young minds is to define a goal for themselves and make themselves very relevant in the space of time. Wherever you find yourself, be it Africa, be it in the Europe or anywhere, have a defined goal. What do I want to achieve? What I call have your PDP.
PDP. What does that mean? What's the name of a
P is
party in
not
Nigeria?
People's Democratic Party.
Okay.
PDP is Personal Development Plan. Every young man should be able to have his personal development plan. What do I want to achieve in this period? How do I want to achieve that thing? Put up the mechanism and the plan and work towards it. Don't think of starting big. That is another thing, another cause of failure for many. They begin on the wrong footing. They have begin to fail even before they began whatever project. There is this saying that we should not despise the days of little beginning. It is a drop of water, they say, that makes a mighty ocean. Start in a little way. These questions and this interview and this interaction is meant to help young minds, although even the adult can benefit for as many who are listening.
Definitely.
But we want to make this clarion call, particularly to a lot of young people out there. We can begin in a very small way and gradually build an empire.
That is so true.
Very few persons have the opportunity to start life in a very big way. It is very, very few people because they have well-to-do parents, they have relations, they have people that will help them. And they seem to start from the top or from the middle. But for the majority, they have to start somewhere from the scratch.
And
It may not
that does not necessarily limit their potential or where they can get to.
certainly it does not limit the potentials. It could be one can start from in country wherever you are in a little way, and as you build up and as you grow, people look for you. One, let's learn some skills. Let's learn some things that helps us to survive this difficult time. It's not all about working, and in fact, people who are considered to be stinkingly rich or have a lot of money, many of them are not salary earners.
Yeah.
These are people that build their own business and gradually it grows to a point where a lot of people are depending on them. They have a lot of people under their employment list and they pay them. So it's important that young minds think of what they can do for themselves. And while thinking of what they can do for themselves, they should think of starting small and then gradually build up. And while they are doing that, they must be able to incorporate the principle of discipline and determination. These will be guiding principles that will help them to go far. Finally, on this, I want to say, it is your attitude that determines your altitude. It's a common saying. In all our growth and development and our plan, be it Europe, be it Africa, be it in the village, be it in the city, have the right attitude. Once you have the right attitude in life, you will be able to go far. That's why I said it is your attitude that determines your altitude. Altitude talks about height, how far you will go.
And just
Be
to quote,
faithful and be committed in whatever thing you are doing. And gradually you will see that the scar will not just be the end for you, but it will be the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much. Thank you for your time. And just to conclude with this famous saying, from this man, Jim Rohn. He says, success is doing ordinary things extraordinarily well.
Right.
Thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure I will invite you again to talk on other topics, maybe professionally now, your line of profession as as deemed necessary or important. It must be very late for you now. Thank you very, very much, sir. I really, really appreciate you coming to share this with a lot of people.
You're, you're welcome. The pleasure is mine, and I will be ever willing to share my thoughts on some few things on subject of discourse. And then we hope that our listeners will benefit from this discussion going forward. Thank you, and bye from my end.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening. Please remember to click the subscribe button. And the good news is, it's free.